Hello and welcome to the World News on Papyrus Global TV. My name is Christiana Babayo, and here are the headlines. U.S. government says it might end deportation protections for Somalis under TPS. Beirut suburb residents say Israeli airstrike only strengthens their resolve. Cameroon opposition leader flees to Gambia amid post-election tension. Sudan army chief rejects U.S.-led ceasefire, labels plan the worst yet. Bissau presidential race heats up as incumbent and main challenger both claim victory. EU and AU leaders meet in Angola for summit on partnership, investment and global reform. Egyptians vote in second phase of parliamentary elections. And now the news in detail. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has announced plans to evaluate and potentially end temporary protected status TPS for Somali nationals, raising deep concern among the Somali community in America. The development was disclosed by Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem during remarks in Minnesota. TPS was originally granted to Somalis in the U.S. more than 3 decades ago during ongoing conflict in their home country, but Secretary Noem stated that the program as applied to Somalis will always be intended to be temporary, a safeguard rather than a path to permanent status. She argued it was never meant to become an asylum program. Her comments follow a public pledge by Donald Trump, who said late last week that he would immediately terminate TPS protections for Somalis in Minnesota, calling the state a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. That announcement has sparked alarm within Minnesota's large Somali American community. There is strong pushback. Legal experts say there is no clear legal mechanism for the president to unilaterally end TPS for a specific group in a specific state. Critics argue the move could inflame tensions and fuel Islamophobia, especially given the implications for families who have lived in the U.S. for decades. TPS for Somalis under the current designation runs through March 17, 2026, according to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. With the clock ticking, Somali advocates and community leaders are calling for emergency legal protections and clarity on how any changes would be implemented without upending families' lives. Residents of Hared Reik, a southern suburb of Beirut, known as part of Hezbollah's stronghold, have expressed defiant resolve after an Israeli airstrike left homes damaged and lives disrupted. The strike, which marked one of the first attacks close to the Lebanese capital in months, killed 5 people and injured more than 25, according to local health officials. The suburb, which lies in the Dahiyeh area, awoke to rubble, shattered windows, and a deeply shaken community. But amid the destruction, several residents made clear that their spirit remains unbroken. One shop owner told Africa News that they were expecting this to happen, adding that past attacks had not broken their commitment. He said the bombing only increases their determination. The attack comes at a time when tensions have risen as Israel accuses Hezbollah of rebuilding its military capabilities in Lebanon, even after a U.S. brokered ceasefire agreement. Israel's military claimed that the Dahiyeh area, where Hared Reik is located, hosts Hezbollah infrastructure. Lebanese officials have denied responsibilities for renewed hostilities. Hared Reik, part of the broader Dahiyeh district, is densely populated and has served as a political and logistical base for Hezbollah for decades. In the wake of the strike, some residents describe having fled their homes as warnings went out while others stayed behind to support the recovery effort. The incident underscores the fragility of the current peace. Although the ceasefire has largely held, analysts warn that such strikes and the community backlash they provoke could unravel trust and spark a renewed cycle of retaliation. Opposition figure Issa Chiroma Bakari has taken refuge in Gambia as political tensions in Cameroon continue to escalate following a contested presidential election. Gambia's Ministry of Information confirmed Chiroma's arrival on November 7, describing his presence as temporary and purely on humanitarian grounds to ensure his safety. Chiroma, who ran against longtime ruler President Paul Biya, has rejected the official results of the October 12 elections. He claimed victory and called on Cameroonians to contest the declared outcome, which awarded Biya an 8th term. The Cameroonian government, however, has threatened legal actions against him, accusing him of inciting insurrection. Since the announcement of the results, widespread protests have rocked several cities, notably Douala, Maroa, and Garoa, resulting in significant number of casualties. While government official statements put the death toll at 16, opposition figures and human rights groups estimate the number of lives lost to be much higher. Sudan's top military commander, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has strongly rejected a US-led ceasefire proposal, calling it the worst yet and accusing international mediators of bias. In a video message released by the military, General Burhan criticized the ceasefire plan, suggesting that it effectively eliminates the role of Sudan's armed forces, disbands security institutions, and allows militia to maintain their current positions. He also directly attacked US advisor Massad Bolos, claiming Bolos seeks to impose conditions on Sudan's military. Burhan's rejection is a major blow to ongoing diplomatic efforts led by the so-called Quad, comprising the US, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and United Arab Emirates, which proposed the truce as a step towards ending the conflict that began in 2023. In a twist to Guinea-Bissau's highly contested presidential election, both incumbent President Umaru Sissoco Embalo and his main challenger are claiming victory against fears of a political standoff. The conflicting declarations come as official results from the vote held earlier this week have yet to be confirmed by the country's electoral commission. President Embalo, who came into power in 2020, has declared that he has won re-election, citing early returns from his party structure and claiming a decisive popular mandate. Meanwhile, his challenger has issued a counterclaim on social media, arguing that police station tabulations favor him, and alleging that some of the Board of Elections data is incorrect or manipulated. The dispute threatens to plunge the country into uncertainty. Political analysts warn that if results are not quickly and transparently verified, tensions could escalate into mass protests or even institutional impasse. Regional bodies, including the Economic Community of West African States, have urged calm and called on the Electoral Commission to fast-track the announcement of validated results and provide full transparency to avoid a backlash. We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will. European and African leaders have convened in Luanda, Angola this week for a high-stakes European Union, African Union, EU summit with key themes including investment, climate action, migration, and global governance reform. The gathering aims to reset cooperation in a world reshaped by geopolitical competition and economic realignment. According to the host and Angola President, João Lourenço, the summit represents a new chapter in EU-AU relations, one focused on creating a more equitable partnership rather than a donor-client dynamic. He emphasized that African countries will increasingly insist on investment pathways that foster industrialization, value addition, and local job creation, rather than just raw resource extraction. Leaders are expected to sign a joint declaration that includes pledges to mobilize more investment for African green energy infrastructure, design joint tax and digital policy frameworks, and deepen trade ties. European leaders will also propose new climate finance mechanisms aimed at channeling funds to African countries most vulnerable to environmental shocks. Migration is also high on the agenda. EU members are anticipated to offer enhanced legal pathways for African migration linked to investment and educational opportunities, while African leaders will call on Europe to share more responsibility in managing migratory flows without restrictive policies that criminalize or stigmatize people on the move. Observers say success at the summit could forge a powerful bloc advocating for global reforms, especially in areas such as international tax, debt relief, and climate justice. However, critics caution that real progress will depend on translating Grand Summit promises into concrete financing mechanisms and legal agreements that guarantee benefits for all parties. Egyptians are heading to polling stations in the second phase of their parliamentary elections as millions across the country cast ballots to elect representatives for the House of Representatives. The voting comes amid heightened political interest and scrutiny, as well as concerns over freedom of expression and political diversity. This phase follows an earlier round held in more than half of Egypt's governorates and will cover the remaining districts in both urban and rural areas. According to Election Commission officials, security has been ramped up at polling stations with additional personnel deployed to ensure stability and order. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his political allies are widely expected to consolidate their influence in the new parliament, though some opposition groups have urged voters to turn out in large numbers to demand accountability and greater political representations. Observers say that if pro-government forces retain a strong majority, it may further entrench the current power structure and limit the space for dissent. Voter turnout and election irregularities will be closely watched both domestically and internationally. While Egyptian state media reports confident participation, independent and international monitors have raised concerns about restrictions on political campaigning, the suppression of critical voices, and the fairness of the electoral process. The results of this second phase, once announced, will help shape Egypt's legislative agenda for the coming years, influencing issues such as economic reform, national security, and state-society relations. And that's all we have on World News on the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Thanks for joining us.